The winter morning in Chicago's suburbs was shrouded in cold fog. Caroline Hudson gazed out of her office window and sighed deeply. In front of her lay stacks of quarterly financial reports and unpaid bills. Sometimes she felt exhausted from single-handedly managing the finances of her family's real estate company. "Caroline, do you have a moment before the meeting?" The door opened, and her mother Martha peeked in. Martha's appearance was impeccable. The navy blue suit she had purchased from a high-end boutique fit her slender frame perfectly. She was the type of woman who always paid attention to appearances. "Of course, Mom. What is it?" Martha sat down in front of Caroline's desk and crossed her legs gracefully. "Vanessa has landed a big contract. It's for the new condominium development in the Jefferson district. We're having a celebration dinner tonight, so come straight to the restaurant after work." Caroline smiled, feeling a slight pain in her chest. Her younger sister Vanessa was the company's most successful sales representative. Her glamorous appearance and sociable personality were significant assets in the real estate industry. "That's wonderful. But I'll probably have to work late tonight. I need to prepare the month-end accounting and tax returns." Martha's expression darkened. "Work again? You're always buried in paperwork. You should get out sometimes and meet people. You're still single, you know." Caroline restrained herself from talking back. She knew her work was not properly appreciated by her family. Thanks to the accounting work she did for free, Hudson Real Estate had avoided audits from the tax office for years. "All right, I'll try to finish on time." Martha stood up, satisfied, and turned before leaving. "Oh, and please review Dad's investment portfolio. The market has been unstable lately." As the door closed, Caroline quietly sighed. Her work never ended: company accounting, managing her parents' personal assets, preparing tax returns. Everything weighed on her shoulders. Yet family conversations always revolved around Vanessa's sales performance and social life. Late in the afternoon, the office door swung open energetically. Vanessa entered glamorously. Her bright blonde hair bounced at her shoulders, and her red dress accentuated her youthfulness. "Sis, did you hear? The Jefferson project. A $3 million deal," she said excitedly. Caroline smiled kindly and replied, "Congratulations, Vanessa. That's really impressive. Dad and Mom are thrilled. Dad even said, Vanessa is a born saleswoman," she said proudly. Caroline didn't feel the need to point out that the market research and profitability analysis she had prepared behind the scenes had contributed to Vanessa's success. That was her role, supporting the family from behind the scenes without standing out. "Can you make it to dinner tonight?" Vanessa asked. "I'll try. But I still have so much work to do." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "You're always like this. You need to enjoy life." "Oh, I almost forgot. Michael Clark is coming to tonight's dinner." Caroline stopped working. Michael Clark was a colleague at her company, a man she had secretly begun to have feelings for. However, she hadn't told anyone about these feelings, especially not her family. "Michael? Why? He's super handsome, isn't he? And Dad apparently knows his family." "Dad invited him?" Vanessa gave a meaningful smile. Caroline felt her heartbeat quicken. An opportunity to dine at the same table as Michael. But she sensed something scheming in Vanessa's gaze. "Well, see you at Marco's restaurant at 7, Vanessa left the room without waiting for Caroline's response. That evening, Caroline hurriedly finished her work and headed to the restaurant. Her family and Michael were already seated at the table. Her father Robert, with his dignified build and silver hair that told of his success, was engaged in an earnest conversation with Michael. "Caroline, you finally made it," Martha said. "We're about to start the meal." "Sorry, work was." Work, always work," Robert interrupted with a laugh. "Our eldest daughter is a workaholic, Michael. Nobody can match her when it comes to numbers." Michael smiled kindly at Caroline. "I'm well aware. Her financial analyses are renowned in the company." Caroline sat down, blushing. As dinner progressed, the conversation kept returning to Vanessa's success stories and her social life. Michael occasionally glanced at Caroline, showing expressions of empathy. As the meal was coming to an end, Michael quietly said to Caroline, "If you're free this weekend, would you like to get coffee?" Caroline was speechless with surprise and joy. She nodded slightly. Something new was about to begin in her life. By the time spring arrived in Chicago, Caroline's life had taken an unexpected turn. Her relationship with Michael had developed rapidly, and weekend dates had become a part of their lives. For the first time, she felt she had found someone who truly understood her. "You're good at reading financial numbers because you have an eye for seeing the essence of things," Michael said. Those were words she had never heard from her family. However, the happy days didn't last long. One April morning, Caroline rushed to the bathroom, overcome with nausea. At first, she thought it was gastroenteritis, but as the symptoms persisted, she bought a pregnancy test. The result was positive. Caroline's chest filled with surprise and confusion. She called Michael. "We need to talk. Can we meet after work today?" Facing each other at a restaurant, Caroline shared the test results, and various emotions crossed Michael's face. A baby, he was at a loss for words and covered his face with his hands. Caroline's heart ached. She thought she was being rejected. But when Michael raised his face, his eyes were shining with tears. "Oh my God. I'm going to be a father," he took her hand. "I'm scared. But let's get through this together. We can do it." While Caroline was relieved, the next hurdle was telling her family. At the weekend family dinner, Caroline gathered her courage and announced, "Actually, I have something to tell everyone. I'm pregnant." Silence spread across the table. Martha was the first to react, her face pale and her voice trembling. "Without being married? Are you joking?" Robert's face reddened with anger. "How utterly thoughtless. What will happen to the company's reputation? What will our clients think?" Caroline silently endured her father's angry voice. She was confused herself, but her determination to have this baby was firm. "Dad, Mom, I'm going to have this baby. Michael and I both want this child." Meanwhile, Vanessa was looking at Caroline with cold eyes. "You didn't do this on purpose, did you? To hold on to Michael? What are you saying?" Caroline couldn't suppress her anger. "Everyone knows you're crazy about Michael. But there are rumors that he has a girlfriend, you know." "That's a lie." Caroline raised her voice. "Michael and I are in a serious relationship. He said he'll take responsibility." Martha slapped the table. "Responsibility? The real responsible party is you, Caroline. Doing such a shameful thing." On the way home that night, Caroline cried in the car. She had expected such a reaction, but experiencing it was painful. As expected, her family's attitude remained cold in the following weeks. But what hurt Caroline the most was being suspected of letting her pregnancy affect her work at the company. "Morning sickness is bad, so I might be late today," she informed them on the phone, and Robert replied curtly, "Try to come as soon as possible. The tax filing deadline is approaching. We're in trouble without you." Martha was similar, "I understand you're not feeling well, but this happened because of your decisions. Take responsibility." Caroline endured silently, working through her morning sickness and fatigue. Michael supported her, and they began living together in a small apartment. In her 6th month of pregnancy, Caroline smiled during her gynecological checkup. "Your baby is a girl," the doctor announced. "I want to name her Emma," Caroline told Michael. It was her grandmother's name. But when she returned home, an urgent call from Robert was waiting. "We have a major audit coming up. Come immediately and organize the documents." "Dad, I had a checkup today. It's over, but I'm tired. Are you listening? This is important." Robert's voice was filled with anger. "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean your responsibilities to the company disappear." In the end, Caroline went to the office and organized documents until late at night. Michael came to pick her up and took her exhausted self home. I'll be on maternity leave soon, Caroline sighed. But the family says they'll be in trouble without me. You've done enough, Michael put his arm around her shoulders. The baby and your health come first. In her 8th month of pregnancy, Caroline was trying to finish her last work. Her large belly hit the desk, and her feet were a bit swollen. Vanessa entered her office. About my birthday party, she said. It's the first Saturday of next month. I'm planning a big party. Caroline was confused. But that's exactly my due date. Vanessa shrugged. Babies don't always come on schedule, do they? Besides, this is an important day in my life. But I'll probably be in the hospital. If labor starts. You always think only about yourself, Vanessa frowned. I'm inviting everyone from the company and important clients. It's embarrassing for the family if you're not there. Caroline suppressed her anger. Vanessa, I'm having a baby. I didn't choose this. Can't you move the date a little? Everything is already arranged. I've booked a luxury restaurant and sent out invitations, Vanessa said coldly. Well, if you can't come, it can't be helped. No one will care. After she left, Caroline cried quietly. It was getting harder day by day to endure her family's coldness. A week before the due date, Caroline's labor began. She was taken to the hospital, accompanied by Michael. The delivery was long and difficult. After 20 hours, the baby finally cried. Congratulations, it's a healthy baby girl, the nurse smiled and placed the baby in her arms. Tears flowed down Caroline's exhausted face. Looking at Emma's little face, she vowed in her heart, I won't let you be treated the way I was. You will always be loved and respected. Michael embraced them both and whispered, this is our family. Whatever happens, we'll get through it together. On the 3rd day after giving birth, soft light from the hospital window illuminated Caroline's face as she lay in bed, gazing at little Emma sleeping in the bassinet next to her. The delivery had been more difficult than expected, and her body was still full of pain and fatigue. The doctor had told her to stay hospitalized for at least 5 days due to the difficult birth. Michael had left the hospital early in the morning to shop for necessities for their new life. I'll be back in about 2 hours, he had promised, kissing Caroline's forehead before leaving. In the silence of the hospital room, Caroline felt both the joy of being a new mother and anxiety about her new life. There had been no congratulatory calls from her family, only a short text message from Vanessa, congrats on the birth. I'm busy with party preparations, we'll contact you later. Caroline picked up the baby and began nursing. While looking at Emma's little face, she whispered, my treasure. At that moment, the hospital room doors suddenly opened. Robert and Martha were standing there. Both were formally dressed, with Martha wearing an expensive cashmere coat. Their expressions were hard, and there were no words of greeting. So this is where you were, Robert's voice was cold. We decided to come directly since you weren't answering your phone. Caroline smiled weakly, clutching the baby to her chest. Dad, Mom, you came. To see Emma. Martha glanced around the room and sniffed. Well, that too, but we need to talk about today. Today. Caroline was confused. Vanessa's birthday party. Martha raised her voice. It's tonight. All the important people in social circles are coming. You know that well. Caroline stared at her parents in disbelief. But I'm still in the hospital. It's painful even to walk, and the baby. Enough with the excuses, Robert interrupted. Important clients from the company are coming. How do we explain the absence of our financial manager? Caroline felt her chest tighten with anger and sadness. Dad, I gave birth 3 days ago. The doctor says I should stay hospitalized for at least 5 days. Her parents didn't seem to be listening. Martha began pacing around the room in irritation. That's enough. Always making excuses. You chose to get pregnant, didn't you? You must take responsibility. Robert agreed. The company is in trouble. Yesterday, we needed to prepare important contracts, but it was chaos without you. Contracts that Vanessa worked hard to secure. Tears welled up in Caroline's eyes. She gently placed Emma back in the bassinet and faced her parents. I've worked hard for the company. I worked until just before giving birth, even during pregnancy. Now I want to prioritize my baby. Martha's face twisted with anger. She suddenly approached the bed, grabbed Caroline's long hair, and pulled her face close. Enough. Martha shouted. Stop wasting time. Today is Vanessa's birthday party. Come help us. Caroline trembled with pain and fear. Martha's fingers pulled her hair tightly, hurting her scalp. Robert also approached and grabbed her hair on the opposite side. Without you, the company paperwork isn't progressing at all. Don't you have any sense of responsibility? Trembling at her parents' violent behavior, Caroline weakly replied, It's still painful to walk, and I have the baby. Suddenly, the door opened, and Vanessa entered. She was wearing a flashy pink dress and expensive jewelry. Found you. Vanessa laughed loudly. Ruining my special day. Always thinking about yourself. That baby is just an accident, isn't it? Caroline shook off her parents' hands and said in a trembling voice, It's not an accident. Emma is my precious child. Vanessa snorted and approached the bassinet where baby Emma was sleeping. Not cute at all. What about clients? Business? The family's reputation? You haven't thought about anything. Caroline felt fear. The cold light in Vanessa's eyes made her anxious. Trash only produces trash, Vanessa said, and lifting Emma, she headed toward the trash can in the corner of the hospital room. Stop. Caroline screamed, jumping out of bed, dragging her forward with her. Her body shook with pain, but her maternal instinct overcame it. Vanessa showed a moment of fear but held the baby over the trash can. She's just in the way, isn't she? For the company, for all of us. Caroline desperately tried to move forward but nearly collapsed from the pain in her body. Holding onto the bed rail, she shouted, Help. Someone. Fortunately, a nurse passing by in the hallway heard her scream. When the nurse rushed into the room, she immediately assessed the situation. Seeing Vanessa holding the baby over the trash can and Caroline trying to stand up while dragging her forward, she immediately called for security. What are you doing? The nurse shouted. Return the baby immediately. Vanessa changed her expression and returned the baby to Caroline. Just a joke, just a joke. I wasn't really going to do it, she made excuses. The parents tried to smooth over the situation. It's a family matter. Everything's fine, Robert said. The nurse checked Caroline's condition and immediately called for other staff. They returned Caroline to bed and checked her fore and wound condition. Caroline held Emma in her trembling hands and cried. Anger and determination were welling up in her heart. Get out, she told her parents and Vanessa. Her voice was small but firm. You are not my family. Never come near us again. Robert's face reddened with anger. What are you saying? We are your parents. What you did today is unforgivable, Caroline said in a trembling voice. Pulling my hair, putting my baby in danger. Is this what family does? A nurse and 2 security guards entered the room. What happened? One security guard asked. Caroline took a deep breath. These people threatened me and endangered my baby. I want them to leave. The security guards turned to the parents and Vanessa. Please leave immediately. Otherwise, we'll call the police. The police. Martha raised her voice. We are her parents. But we cannot forcibly keep visitors that the patient doesn't want, the security guard said firmly. Robert momentarily tried to resist but finally gave up. Let's go, Martha, Vanessa, he said, suppressing his anger. She'll realize how wrong she is when she calms down. Before the 3 left the room, Vanessa turned back and looked at Caroline with cold eyes. The party will be great. Even without you. After the door closed, Caroline explained the situation to the hospital staff. They reported it to the police, and Caroline decided to apply for a restraining order against her family. Don't worry, an older nurse took her hand. You and the baby are safe. We'll protect you. When Michael returned to the hospital room with shopping bags, he was surprised to see Caroline talking to police officers. When told about the situation, his face changed with anger and concern. "It's okay, now," he embraced Caroline. "I'll protect you both. I'll make sure this never happens again." That night, Caroline held Emma in her arms, gazing at the starry sky outside the window. Her eyes held a light of determination. "I won't let them near me or my daughter again," she vowed in her heart. She called a lawyer and began making plans for after her discharge. Moving to a new apartment with Michael's help, cutting off all contact with her family. Quitting her job at the company and finding a new workplace. And most importantly, raising Emma safely. Caroline's new life was about to begin. She was no longer the obedient daughter who sacrificed herself for her family. She had decided to become strong as a mother and as a woman. In a room where soft spring sunlight filtered through the curtains, Caroline was working on her computer while holding 1-month-old Emma. A month had passed since the incident at the hospital, and her life had changed dramatically. The new apartment she shared with Michael was in a quiet residential area in the Chicago suburbs, and they had begun a small but comfortable new life. "I made coffee." Michael entered the living room with mugs. After taking 2 weeks of paternity leave, he had returned to work but made sure to come home early to spend time with his family. "Thank you," Caroline smiled. She had been hired as a remote worker for a new financial consulting company and had started working from home. "I'm almost finished with the financial analysis for this new client." Michael sat down next to her and gently stroked sleeping Emma's little face. "She really looks like you. She has the same strength." Caroline was full of gratitude. After the terrifying incident at the hospital, Michael had never blamed her and had fully supported her. With the help of a lawyer, they had obtained a restraining order against Robert, Martha, and Vanessa. Caroline had officially cut ties with Hudson Real Estate and was focusing on her new life. "Any contact from your family?" Michael carefully asked. Caroline shook her head. "Nothing. According to my lawyer, they seem to be complying with the restraining order." In truth, deep in Caroline's heart, she still had complex feelings about her parents. Despite her anger and disappointment, there was also a sense of loss from the sudden severance of family bonds that had lasted for decades. However, considering Emma's safety, her decision was unwavering. In the evening, Caroline was standing by the window, holding Emma. A gentle spring breeze tapped at the window, and outside she could hear children playing on bicycles. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Caroline tensed. Michael had said he would be a bit late due to work, and no friends were scheduled to visit. She gently laid Emma in her crib and looked through the peephole. Standing there were people she never imagined seeing: Robert, Martha, and Vanessa. All three looked tired, especially Robert, who had aged significantly. Martha's once perfect appearance was disheveled, and Vanessa's makeup was thin. Caroline's chest tightened. Fear and anger resurfaced, and her hands trembled. "You're violating the court order. Leave here," she said through the intercom. "Open up, Caroline." "Please," Martha said tearfully. Her eyes were red and swollen. "What do you want?" Caroline tried to remain calm. "The company is in serious trouble," Robert said. His voice had lost its former dignity. "Since you left, the finances have been in complete chaos." Vanessa had tears in her eyes. "We can't even file tax returns, and there's going to be an audit. Help us." Caroline calmly replied, "That's not my problem. You should hire professionals." "But we don't have money," Martha said. "Without you, nothing is going right." Looking at them, Caroline felt a strange emotion. Her former self would have immediately gone to help. She used to think it was natural to sacrifice herself for her family. But now it was different. Having given birth to Emma and experienced that terrible day, she had changed. "Until a month ago, my only value to you was as the company's bookkeeper," Caroline said quietly. "My pregnancy and childbirth were just inconveniences in your eyes." "That's not true," Robert said hastily. "We're family. Family helps each other." Caroline smiled bitterly. "Family? People who pulled my hair and tried to throw my baby in the trash. As Caroline spoke through the intercom, Vanessa shouted at the camera, "It's all your fault. Since you left, the company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Our lives are ruined." At that moment, the door opened behind Caroline, and Michael appeared, holding Emma. "What's going on?" he asked worriedly. Caroline explained the situation, and Michael said to the family through the monitor, "She supported you for years without compensation, and you took it for granted. Now you should solve your problems yourselves." Robert said with a desperate expression, "The company is about to go bankrupt. Debts are piling up. Vanessa's spending habits are out of control." He hesitated for a moment and continued, "Actually, it was discovered that Vanessa had been using company funds for personal shopping. Caroline, we need your expertise." Caroline's eyes widened in surprise. She had always noticed suspicious points in the company's books but never suspected Vanessa. She knew her parents spoiled her excessively but didn't think she would embezzle. "So you want me to take the fall?" Caroline said, suppressing her anger. "That's not it," Robert said weakly. "We really need help. The police might start an investigation." Caroline looked at Michael. He placed his hand on her shoulder and nodded quietly. "I'll support whatever decision you make." After a long silence, Caroline took a deep breath. She didn't hate her parents. She was disappointed and hurt, but she took no pleasure in seeing their collapsed state. "What you did in the hospital is absolutely unforgivable," Caroline said calmly. "But, as a professional, I will give advice once. After that, never contact me again." She explained several methods for financial restructuring and promised to email a list of trustworthy accountants and lawyers. However, she made it clear that the family relationship was completely over. "The day you called me and my daughter a trash is the day our family bond was severed." Vanessa broke down in tears. "I didn't really mean it. I was just jealous." "It's too late," Caroline said coldly. "If you truly regret your actions, live honestly from now on. I'll send advice by email, but I don't want any further relationship." Robert and Martha nodded silently. Their eyes showed the color of regret, but Caroline's mind was made up. After they left, Caroline cried quietly in Michael's arms. They were complex tears, mixing sadness for what was lost with hope for a new life. "Are you okay?" Michael gently asked. Caroline answered while gazing at Emma, "I'm fine. We have a new family. The past is the past. From now on, I'll look forward." That night, as promised, Caroline sent an email with methods for financial restructuring and a list of professionals. At the end of the email, she wrote, "This is my last help to you. From now on, please walk your own path. I will do the same." The moment she pressed the send button, Caroline felt a little lighter in her heart. In the Chicago streets dressed in autumn colors, a refreshing breeze was blowing through. 3 months had passed since Caroline and Michael had purchased their new home, and Emma was now 6 months old. The house with a small garden was filled with their dreams and hopes. Caroline opened the morning paper with a coffee in hand, scanning the local economics section. There was a small article there, "Hudson Real Estate Files for Bankruptcy." She read the article with mixed feelings. The company had completely gone bankrupt due to large unpaid taxes and improper financial management. The article ended by noting that a former sales representative was under investigation for misappropriating company funds. Caroline sighed. Had the advice she sent not helped? Or was the situation already too late? Either way, it was no longer part of her life. "What are you reading?" Michael asked while preparing breakfast. "Nothing important," Caroline smiled and closed the newspaper. She chose to move forward rather than look back at the past. A few weeks later, Caroline was shopping at a local supermarket. While pushing Emma in the stroller, she headed towards the vegetable section. There, she unexpectedly encountered someone. It was Vanessa. No longer glamorous, she was wearing modest clothes and selecting sale items with a tired expression. Caroline thought about going to another aisle for a moment, but before Vanessa noticed her, she began selecting organic ingredients for Emma. The two carefully moved to avoid eye contact, but eventually, Vanessa looked in her direction. Complex emotions appeared on her face: a shame, regret, and a glimmer of hope. She hesitantly waved a small greeting. Caroline quietly nodded back. There was no further interaction, but in that moment, she felt something in her heart become a little lighter. She was walking her own path without letting hatred control her heart. On the way home, Caroline remembered what she had heard from a friend. Robert had started working night shifts at a suburban warehouse, and Martha had begun part-time work at a small local boutique. They had lost social credibility and been abandoned by their former friends. Caroline felt no desire for revenge, but she couldn't help feeling there was karmic justice. She was determined to cherish her new family and not look back at the past. On Emma's first birthday, they held a small party. Michael's parents and new friends gathered, creating a warm atmosphere filled with love. Caroline's financial consulting company had also started to gain momentum, and she was enjoying fulfilling days, treasuring the balance between work and family. "Let's make a toast," Michael's father said. "To the health of our beloved granddaughter Emma, and to the happiness of her wonderful parents." As glasses clinked pleasantly, Caroline thought while embracing Emma. A true family isn't about blood ties but about bonds of mutual respect and support. Outside the window, the autumn leaves were beginning to color beautifully. Seasons change, and so does life. Caroline's new life had only just begun.